record so that you can have this later. All right. Good day, good day, good day. Let's talk about NLP. Let's talk about NLP. Let's talk about NLP. And I'm going to be showing you slides. I'll review some of these things. I know it's been a while since we taught NLP. But this diagram, the NLP model of communication, is so very important. I don't know if this is recording. Okay. So if you have if you have your pen and you have and you can try and do some kind of sketch, so that we understand there are certain terms, there are certain things about NLP communication model, that it's important that you attend the public speaking class, Podium Dynamics Academy, because what we teach there is foundational, is the foundation for this advanced class. That one we teach there is very foundational, but this one is like the foundation part of the advanced class. So a few things you will notice there. You notice internal representation. Write that down. I'll explain what it means. You also notice states. These are terms you need to master, understand. All right. Then you also notice physiology. I would explain that shortly. From states, you have an arrow that shows you behavior, which is also a very important part of NLP, behaviors. And then you also see an arrow, that's the face of a human being. And then you notice that there's an arrow directed towards his eyes, his nose, and his mouth, and perhaps his ears. And then you see unconscious and you see conscious. Now, you also see like a line, and before the line, you have the filters, which deletes and generalize and distorts. The filters that delete, generalize, and distort. If you can draw this diagram, it will help you understand how the human mind works. It will help you understand how children work, how any person you make contacts with work. So you see delete, you see generalize, and you see distort. Then underneath it, you see meta programs. I'm going to explain that shortly. We see values, we see beliefs, we see decisions, and then we see memories. And there's another line, and before that line, there's an arrow again. And before the arrow, you have external events. So this diagram was put together many years ago by the creators of the NLP model. The idea basically is just to help you understand how humans process things and how they produce outcomes. One key word you want to write down that we use very often in NeuroLinguistic programming is the term outcome. As a matter of fact, as a communicator, as an expert communicator, as a life coach, you are sensitive to outcomes. Outcomes are the feedbacks that you use to determine a whole lot about the person. So we use it, we have outcome thinking as our major philosophy. In basic communication teaching, we call that feedback or interpretation. And we say that the quality of communication is in the quality of feedback. We've said that before. I'm sure if you follow me carefully, we say the quality of communication is the quality of feedback. It's not the message. So if I say something to you, you receive the information, but your result or your behavior, as we can see here, or your behavior is not in alignment with what I said to you, it means that I did not communicate properly. So one of the presuppositions of NeuroLinguistic programming is that the meaning of any communication is the feedback that the receiver or the decoder sends back to us. In practical terms, if you tell the child, go here, and it's coming towards you, it means that your message that was go here and his behavior or his feedback or his interpretation that is come here, it shows that there is no effective communication. It shows there's a problem with the communication process. It shows that something is not right. The words you said is not in alignment with the interpretation or the behavior. So one of the things we want to write down is external events. So when external events is data, we receive a lot of data and we call it sensory data. Write that down. So technical terms, you don't see programming, but something you need to get acquainted with. Sensory data. We use our senses to help us navigate and learn about the world we live in. So information is bombarding us from things, over 2 million bits of information every second. We're looking around, circumstances, news, challenges, all kinds of things. Same thing happening to you, same thing happening to people. You must be conscious of external events. But when we receive external events, because they happen, we don't notice everything. The truth is that we don't notice everything, right? That we don't notice everything. A lot of things is happening to you right now as I'm speaking. Maybe the environment you're staying is very cold or you're not very comfortable. So a lot of things happening to you, but you don't notice everything. You choose what you notice. Write that down. You choose what you notice. And what you notice, you feel. What you notice, you feel. If you take a time now and look around you and you see a lot of red, try and look around you for anything red. Try and look around you, your house, for anything red. All right, so if you have done that, I want you to now change your mind and then look for anything white around you. If you do that little exercise I just said, you realize that your mind began to zero down on anything red. Your mind began to focus on looking for anything red, from the shoes to the drapes in your house, the curtains. To look for white. We filter them. So that's where that next thing is. We filter it. Humans filter data. Your children have learned how to filter data. Your colleagues at work have learned how to filter data. The person who is your client or who is your patient, person who you're trying to counsel, has learned how to filter data. And how do we filter data? How does our mind, how does a human person filter data? How do you, or now in this case, the person who is being coached or the person who is being counseled, filter data? He filters data in 3 ways. Number one, we call it deletion. Write down one, deletion. The second thing is generalization. Write the word generalization. And the third thing is distortion. That's basically the way that humans filter data. So what does deletion mean? As let me imply, it means that we delete certain things. We just delete. When we hear information, conceived notions, what we already accept, we delete it. And you heard something about Enkanka, that is a doctrine of Enkanka, and you are not of the you're not an Ekis, you are a Catholic or you are a Christian. You know, you choose not to notice it, you delete it from your system. And what we need to understand is that our mind have the capacity to delete stuff. We can delete words, we can delete thoughts, we can delete images, we can delete, and just by deleting a vocabulary in our minds, we literally delete a belief. If you've been following me in class, especially in the public speaking school, on Saturday, we had a Facebook Live on transformational vocabulary. So I request that I'm going to send the YouTube link so you can take your time to watch it. It talks a lot about our NeuroLinguistic practice. You need to understand those foundational lessons. It helps you appreciate our teaching here. That's why I insisted that you join the communications class, the basic communications class. If you don't get the foundation right and you don't participate in that foundational class, when we start talking advanced concept like this, it might be confusing to you. It might look like rocket science. But when you understand the foundational class, like we taught on transformational vocabulary, we also taught on the dynamics of communication. It will help you understand NLP communication model. So you see, we delete things. Another thing that we do is we generalize. Human beings generalize. Based on our already existing notions and beliefs, we generalize. Another thing you will notice that we do is that we distort. We can take an information and literally change the information of it. That's what our minds can crazily do that. All right. And the meta programs, we already have meta programs. What helps us to delete, generalize, and distort our meta program? Programs are like mindsets, already existing programs that we accumulated over time as children, as we grew up. And one of the things that we have going for us in NLP is empathy. You must be empathetic towards people. You cannot approach coaching or approach counseling or approach helping people with the mindset of condemnation. Even if you're working with your staff or your deleting things, they are generalizing things and they're distorting things. And what is helping them do that is their meta programs. What have they been programmed? We are all creatures of programs. We are programmed by a lot of things: our religion, our faith, our beliefs. We also have beliefs. We have values. Values means things that we believe are topmost priority in our lives. We have values about relationship. We have values about marriage. We have values about work. We have values about business. We also have beliefs. And these are strong. We even have identities that we use to filter sensory data, filter information. We have decisions that we make, and we have memories. All of these are filters. Then the information that is from the external events goes through that barrier or that filter, and then some go to our unconscious, or what we call the subconscious mind. Some information that we receive go to our unconscious mind. One of these, you must realize that there are certain cues and clues. There are certain words, non-verbal words, or even words that go pass through our conscious mind into our subconscious mind. And you have to be aware of it. When life coaches are communicating with people, they have a language pattern. They have a language pattern that enables them to go through the barriers of the conscious mind to the subconscious mind. And I've taught you that severally. I'm going to teach you again until it sinks in. And how to go about that is by using what is called the Milton model. I'm going to take my time one of these days to teach you the Milton model. But basically, when you speak in ambiguous terms, or you speak abstract, or you tell stories, when you begin to tell stories and use hypnotic language or use Milton language, just to be ambiguous and vague, when you're not specific, that is, you are going to quickly access people's unconscious mind. So storytelling and ambiguous language and hypnotic language passes the conscious mind to the unconscious mind. Let me make it practical. When you want to get across to your children, you want to implant certain philosophies, values, and words to your children so they can grow with it. You tell stories. You're not very direct, you're very vague. You must learn how to tell a good story, because you're doing that, you're going past the barrier of their intelligence or their conscious mind into the subconscious. So after we've generalized our conscious mind, and that's where a lot of things happen. Intelligently are conscious of stuff. So we have the unconscious, and then we have conscious. Now we go to the face of the man. He has 5 senses. He has 5 gates. his eyes for sight, his ear for hearing, his nose for smell, and his skin for touch. Those are the 5 gates. That's how we communicate. So technically, and I'm going to teach you that again when I teach you submodalities. Technically, we say, instead of saying sight, we say visual. Okay? Instead of saying feelings, we say kinesthetic. Instead of saying hearing, we say auditory. I'm going to teach you that again. And we've also categorized people, individuals, even your children, your people, anybody you're working with, into 3 basic people, because we use those modalities or those modes to process our thoughts. That is, we are either visual, or we are kinesthetic, or we are auditory. Either V, K, and A. Visual, kinesthetic, and auditory. If you do the foundational class of communication, we say we are either visual, feeling, or content driven. If you've ever attended our dynamics of communication class, that's the basic term we use. But when you attend NLP, the advanced terminology is visual, kinesthetic, and auditory. That is sight, feeling, and hearing. That's how we process things, and people are categorized in these 3 levels. However, since we have 5 senses, we only at the basic level, we talk about 3 senses, but people are deeper than that, especially those that are blind, that can't see, all right, that can't see or can't hear. They use other parts of their systems better. So we have visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory. I'm going to spell it for you. O-L-F-A-C-T-O-R-Y, olfactory, and then O-L-F-A-C-T-O-R-Y, olfactory, that's smell, sense of smell. That's a technical term for smell. And then we have gustatory. Gustatory is taste, G-U-S-T-A-T-O-R-Y. Those are the 5 technical terms: visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory. Now, basically, majorly humans, people that you meet on a regular basis in the business place, in the workplace, they're usually V, A, and K. But when you have people who have who are physically challenged and have issues maybe with their sight and maybe with speaking, they have this other part, the olfactory and gustatory parts of them heightened. And so they receive sensory data and information from external events from that. Now, why am I saying all of these things? Because the first thing called internal representation is a function of those 5 things I just mentioned. So under internal representation, you can write visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory. So we take those information, conscious and unconscious, and then we form internal representation, whether they may be visual, they may be auditory, they may be kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory. And there's a deeper dimension to it, but I'm not going to dwell that so that I don't get to confuse you. When we talk about internal representation, what we are talking about basically is thoughts. We're talking about thoughts. That's what thoughts are. So our internal representation will form our states. Now write down the word states. What do we mean by states? State simply means the way you are feeling now. State is the way you're feeling now, your emotions now, your current emotion. That's what state is. And we're going to teach that shortly, state management. I even have videos. One of the major things we talk about in NeuroLinguistic programming is state management. For you to achieve peak performance, even as an individual, you must understand state management, how you feel at the moment. There are 2 kinds of states. We have empowering states and disempowering states. Empowering states are feelings and emotions that enable you to do what you have to do, to reach peak performance, to be optimal in your presentation, to be optimal in your activities, to be at your best, all right? Disempowering states are emotions that take power from you, that disenfranchises you, that makes you weak and tired. And so individuals oftentimes sleep because feelings fluctuate. We sleep. We're fluctuational. We're not stable. We ebb and we rise, we crest and we trough in our feelings. And so people are not performing all the time at the rate you want them to perform because of their states. So when you understand NLP, you can help people manage their states. You can break limiting states. You can empower them rather than disempower them. You can use words. You can touch them. You can break their patterns. You can reframe them. These are terms we're going to use and learn. You can make strong connections with them. You can inspire them just so that they can maintain a state that is needed to achieve their goals. So as a leader, you need to understand state management yourself. Beyond that, you also need to help people maintain high levels of states. And as in the coming days, we'll teach you how to get people to maintain a great state. So their internal representation leads to a state. And then the next thing you see is their physiology. What's physiology? In very simple terms, is their body. Their body. So however they are feeling, whatever state they are, state of mind they are at a moment, you can see in their body. And so we are very observant as communicators in NLP. We are very, very observant. We observe people. And how do we easily observe people? I've taught you that before. We look at people's eyes. I think we've taught that before. We look at people's eyes. We look at people's ears. I don't know if it's there. We look at people's ears, eyes. We look at people's body movement, and we listen to what they are saying. Let me see if I can show you the picture. That picture should be somewhere around here. Oh, it's not here. So, but I'm going to make sure I show you this slide because it's important you understand that that's how we really determine people's states. Let me see. Oh, it's not here. It's not in this slide. Okay. Okay, so I have to make sure. Okay, look at definition of states. A state is a mental and emotional state. A state is a mental and emotional state, a dynamic mind-body state of experience or being that operates as an experiential energy field. This is called NeuroLinguistic state or primary states. Now, what does that really mean? Let's look at the picture that is given to us here. So you see the events of the world, okay? And then you see the reference, and you see the cinema of the mind, that's the circle around him. And that cinema of the mind, what's happening on in his mind is his represented state. So we say in NLP, state is everything. All our goals are actually states. What does that mean? That you don't want a car. What you really want is the feeling that a car gives to you. That's what you're looking for. And that's why top marketers sell states. They sell emotions, they sell feelings, they sell moments, they sell experiences. It's not the car they're selling. They're not selling you a Benz, they're selling you prestige. You know, they're not selling you Toyota, they're selling you affordability. So they're not selling you that bag. The bag is a liability, can reduce in value over time, but they're selling you the fact that you are holding a Gucci bag or Louis Vuitton material. So all our goals, all the goals that we want to achieve at the end of the day, all the goals we pursue to achieve are states of mind. And so if, as a person who understands NeuroLinguistic programming, you focus on helping people achieve states. If they have the feeling, they will have the energy to pursue that goal and achieve it. It doesn't matter the challenge. When people are allowed to maintain the right kind of state, they can achieve their goals. Now, so performance and behavior is a function of state. I already said that. Bad habits are attempts to modify states. So when a person is smoking, the person begins to smoke is because he wants to get a certain feeling. He wants highness. He wants to feel. His goal is to get a state. A person is addicted to sex. You know, he wants to get a certain level of states. So in NLP, state is very major. You enjoy somebody's company because of the state, because he puts you in a good state. The reason why you're around certain people, you because of the way they make you feel, not because of what he said, not because of his niceness, but because of the states it makes you feel. So in NLP, we talk a lot about this. Let's go back to our diagram. and see, after internal representation, after our thoughts, that is our visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory, that produces a state for us. And if you notice a dotted line that forms an arrow, your state immediately produces your behavior. In fact, your state produces two things. Let me see if I can show you here. Let me see if I can show you here. Your state is your state here. It produces your behavior, and it also produces your physiology. What's your physiology? Your physiology is your body movement, the way your body moves. And one of the presuppositions, one of the things, the doctrines, the essence of NeuroLinguistic programming is that there is a mind and body connection. There's a nexus between your mind and your body. So your physiology is your state to produce your physiology. And if we observe you carefully, just by looking at your body, I can predict what your state is, how you're feeling at the moment. And of course, state determines behavior. So let's go over some of the things we just mentioned now. Okay. So let's go over the things we just mentioned now. Quickly, external events, sensory data, what people say to you, events that happen in your life, you filter it. That shows that man is very powerful. We are very powerful. You are very powerful. You are very, very powerful. Trust me on that. You are really very powerful. You know why you're powerful? Because you can filter things. You can delete things, and you can consciously do that. What makes you, because when you don't filter properly to affect your internal representation, that eventually affects your state. You can filter things, you can generalize, and you can distort. And this is a result of your meta programs. And the beautiful thing about all of these can be created. All of that, meta programs, values, beliefs, decisions, and memories. You can create memories. You can consciously allow certain information begin to help you form new values, new beliefs, new decisions, new memories. And then this, of course, affects and forms our state here. Forms our internal representation, then which forms our state. And we said that a state produces two things. You can see a person's state in his body, and you can see a person's behavior. What do we call behavior? We call it outcome. That's what behavior is, or what we basically call feedback. You know, behavior is our goal. Behavior is our goal. That's our goal. That's what we're looking for. But when external events, what you said to a person, when external events does not align with behavior, it means that you're not effectively communicated. But when external events aligns with a person's behavior, it means that you have creatively found a way to go past what he deletes, generalizes, and distorts, and then get into his subconscious, all right? Affects what goes on in his mind, his internal representation. You have interrupted that. You have determined his state, and so you can produce behavior and a right body movement. All right. So that is that about, I'm sure that it is not too technical. I'm sure that if you pay attention to this and you drew it very well and you follow my trend of thoughts, you will get this. So this diagram is actually an examination question. And if you're going to pass and become a life coach, you must understand this, and you must know how to explain it. You must know how to draw it on the board, draw it in your paper, whatever it is, and you must know how to, life application, you must know how to explain it like I have explained it, with life examples, relating it to children, relating it to adults, workplace, customers. This is what we call the NLP communication model, and it's a very, very important part of communication. All right, so let me before I because that's basically what I want to teach us that today. I didn't want to go beyond that. Last week we talked about NLP life application. How does it apply? How can we use it? As a life coach and as a communicator, as you can see from the screen, NLP will enable you to become a better business person, entrepreneur. It's good for sales, it's good for negotiations, it's good for presentation. You understand NLP, you know how to achieve the right state of mind to do that in your presentation. NLP can help you deal with your health program if you want to get weight loss using NLP techniques. The next class will be I'm going to be teaching you sub-modalities, what sub-modalities are, and we're going to talk about it when the next class will happen. So sub-modalities will enable you, those are visualization techniques and exercises that you can do that will help you deal with weight loss, smoking, and phobia cure. It's also very good for medicals. I've seen medicals there, counseling, psychotherapy, and hypnotherapy. There's a body of knowledge called hypnotherapy. All right. Then for communication, personal communication, you have NLP can help you, for self-expression, love, problem solving, attaining your goals, and coaching. That's most of you want to learn this because you're coaching, you're working with people, you're leading people. You need to take the time to study this psychological concept. Now, I told you last week that there's been a major clash between traditional psychology and neurolinguistic programming. In fact, it took them many years. It took the psychology, that department many years to embrace it because it was very disruptive. The concepts, the philosophies were a far cry from the conventional. And so it's exciting. Today we have top organizations, big banks, big executive meetings, bringing in NLP trainers to teach their staff stress management, attitudinal management. Most coaches, most consultants, right now have to be NLP certified. And that's why your guys on the right track. Once you're NLP certified, you get access to some of these organizations. Most top CEOs and chairmen already know about NLP, and they found out how powerful it is. So you can get a fantastic job. So education, if you are in the educational sector, NLP will make you be a fantastic teacher. If you combine NLP with Montessori kind of education, wow, you're great. So you see effective study methods, more incentives, more strength and endurance. So that's basically the way NLP, the life application of NLP. And again, you know that when we say NLP, it's not rocket science. It's basically talking about neuro, which is getting information through your neurology process, neurological processes, that is your sight, your hearing, your smell, your taste, and your touch, which we've said severally. That is your visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory. Those are technical terms. That's neuro. Linguistic means using language. So aside working with our internal representations or our visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory, or sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. Every time I use those words interchangeably. Whenever you hear me use the word internal representation, understand that I'm talking about visual, either visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory. All right? Or sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. All of that happens in our minds. All right? All of that happens in our minds. Tastes and all of that in our minds. You call it internal representation. It determines our state. And our state determines our behavior and how we feel in our body. So that's NeuroLinguistic, is using of language. We believe that language is powerful. We have different kinds of language. In NeuroLinguistic programming, we have multi-model. That is the way you use ambiguous statement. I'll teach you that specifically. We also have meta-model, or what has evolved to become the precision model. I'll teach you Milton and meta-model very soon, and how to use it right now as a persuader and so on. That's linguistic. And then programming means that you can use words and you can use physical activities, that is your visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory, including physiology, to install. Programming means to install. You are always installing, downloading, organizing ideas and actions, and they are part of your gut system, part of you. That's what NLP is all about, and it's quite an interesting course. Let's see how it helps individuals. We see that It can help you create healthy relationships. You become a fantastic listener, very fantastic listener, and then you are getting more information than others. What people are taking for granted, words people are taking for granted, you don't add, basically, you know his state of mind. You're looking at his body. We call the ability to, and I'll teach you that later, the ability to observe and decode information, sensory acuity. Sensory acuity. Sensory acuity is the ability to sense a person's states, sense a person's, or evaluate a person's internal representation through his behavior. If you look at the sixth NLP presupposition, it says that calibrate. So calibrate means to measure. So to measure is sensory acuity. You can look at the person and sense. You should be quick to sense, quick to know. And a few things that can help you do that. All right, so we have resolving anxiety and negative feelings. You're always having anxiety. There are certain exercises you can do using NLP, and that is gone. We can help you overcome phobias, make you a better communicator, change your health and damaging habits, develop management skills, and learning rapid stress releasing techniques. So those are various ways that NLP will teach you. So when we come next week, when we meet again, we'll fix the date and meet again. I'll be teaching you about rapport. I think I've taught Mrs. Anne about rapport, but I'm going to teach again. Repetition is the principle for a lasting impression. We'll look at rapport and how to quickly get people to achieve rapport through various things that will show. I'll make you understand it better and better. So thank you guys for being in class today and for learning. I hope it was not too complicated. I hope it was not too complicated. I hope you learned something. I will take questions now.